It's your car, so let's just settle this amicably. My sister-in-law Abby called me out of the blue, having caused an accident. She was incredibly agitated, screaming things that made no sense. I don't own a car, though. Don't lie, it's the car that was parked in your driveway. Abby was under the impression that the black luxury car was mine. You're mistaken. That car is... Before I could finish, she interrupted, saying, It's your fault for leaving the keys in, and hung up the phone. Afterward, when she learned the truth, Abby was trembling with fear. Life is like a drama. I feel like I've seen a movie like that before. My life is exactly that. My name is Catherine. Until 2 years ago, when my current husband Joe proposed to me, I was in the depths of despair. My first marriage was at 22, right after graduating from college, to a man named Matt, who was in the same club as me. We may have been struggling financially, but we still managed to have some great memories. Then 3 years after we got hitched, on a snowy day, Matt had a motorcycle accident and passed away. All that left was his beloved dog, BB. I couldn't seem to recover from my grief. Matt, why?
Catherine, hang in there. We're here for you.
Joe, one of my college friends, supported me. His kindness, so warm and enveloping, naturally drew me to him. 2 years after my first husband's death, I accepted Joe's proposal and remarried at 27, taking BB with me. My father-in-law was a wealthy businessman, and Joe also worked for his company. Upon marrying him, I became a homemaker and started a new life in a house near my in-laws. My husband remained gentle and kind after our marriage. Thanks to Joe, I wanted to say I became happy, but life isn't that sweet. My sister-in-law Abby made my life difficult. She was a 23-year-old part-timer, 4 years younger than me, and had taken an instant dislike to me from the moment we met. But when her parents and my husband were around, she acted all nice and friendly towards me. My in-laws were very kind people, always offering me thoughtful words.
Catherine, you are a kind and considerate daughter-in-law. Abby should learn from you.
Right. I want to become a wonderful woman like Catherine. Oh, I'm nothing special, but thank you. After that conversation, I felt Abby glare at me momentarily. Abby had a youthful, cute appearance, unlike her parents and Joe, who had more refined features. However, I didn't think much of it at the time. Then one day, Abby came at me with a complete shocker that I never saw coming. It was during our first family meal at my in-laws' house when she grabbed me by the collar as we passed in the hallway. Don't get the wrong idea. My brother only pitied you because your husband died. What? My brother and I were meant to be together. You've ruined it. I'll never forgive you. What are you talking about? You and Joe are siblings, right? She shot me a mean look that didn't match her cute face at all. I'll make sure you fall into hell. Remember that. After throwing those hurtful words at me, she pushed me away and disappeared into the depths of the house. Trembling with fear, I was about to consult my husband. There's something I need to talk to you about Abby.
Isn't she cute? Both my parents and I really care about Abby. Catherine, please get along with her.
Oh, yes, I understand. Being told that by Joe made it impossible for me to speak about the verbal abuse I would receive from her. However, aside from that, he told me something astonishing. It was completely unexpected, and I was at a loss for words. Since that day, unsettling events have continued to occur around me. It always happened while I was walking my pet BB. Spiteful words like, "This woman loves men despite being divorced," or "She's so ugly," and "She's a sneaky cat who steals things," were posted on the walls of our house, and the laundry I had hung out was thrown to the ground and covered in mud. The most shocking thing was when the window facing the garden was broken and my jewelry, including rings and necklaces, were all stolen. I was convinced that Abby was the culprit, but I couldn't bring myself to tell the police. I thought to myself, I wonder how disappointed Joe and his parents would be if they knew the truth about Abby. I kept my mouth shut, but my father-in-law is a successful businessman with a bunch of people working for him. He seemed to sense something was off from my expression when I visited their house and kindly offered his support.
You seem troubled. Feel free to talk to me about anything.
Thank you. Actually, after I opened up to my understanding father-in-law, he was surprised but believed me.
I'll take care of it. I'm sorry for letting this upset you. It seems I might have spoiled her a bit too much.
I tried to bring it up with my husband as well, but he was in a bad mood that day and coldly told me,
I'm busy. Leave it for later.
I assumed he was tired from work and ended up not saying anything. However, I would come to regret not talking to Joe for the rest of my life. A couple days later, I got a call that my father-in-law collapsed and was taken to the hospital. I rushed over, but I was too late, and my kind-hearted father-in-law had passed away. It was because of some toxins in his body. According to the police, he could have swallowed some poisonous plant while he was out hiking, and that's why he collapsed. I thought to myself, would my careful father-in-law really make such a mistake? I felt something was off, but I had no evidence. After the funeral, as my husband took over the company, he became busier. Meanwhile, I was concerned about my mother-in-law, who was deeply saddened by the loss of my father-in-law. So I started visiting her house more often. Unfortunately, this meant I had to encounter Abby, whom I didn't get along with, but I had no choice. Abby would glare at me and deliberately bump into me, making it clear she disliked my presence at my in-laws' house without letting my mother-in-law notice. One day, when we were supposed to have lunch with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, Abby insisted on cooking. For some reason, she was in a good mood as she headed to the kitchen, but Bibi growled and threatened her.
Why would you growl at me like that? She's such an unlovable dog. Why did you bring that dog?
I'm sorry. She normally doesn't bark at people. I apologized profusely to Abby while calming Bibi down. She clicked her tongue conspicuously and started preparing lunch. What came out on the table was a fine-looking steak.
Come on, Mom, eat this and cheer up.
Then turning to me with a full smile, she said,
Catherine, please enjoy as well.
Thank you, I will. I gratefully began to eat the meat, but at that moment, Bibi suddenly jumped up, grabbed my steak, and immediately spit it out on the floor. I was confused, but it seemed like the smart Bibi was trying to tell me something. I stopped eating and comforted Bibi. Both my mother-in-law and Abby watched in astonishment, and after about 5 minutes, Bibi collapsed. I hurriedly called a taxi and took Bibi and the meat she spit out to the vet. The vet then told me this.
This is a sign that she's been poisoned.
Fortunately, because Bibi hadn't swallowed it, she survived, but it left me trembling with fear. I thought to myself, was my life being targeted? Surely Bibi must have been trying to save me. Watching Bibi struggling to breathe in place of me, my anger began to overtake my fear. And so I decided to consult someone. The following day was a total disaster. Everything that could go wrong did.
I had an accident. I messed up the steering and broke the fence of a house. It's your car, so let's settle this amicably.
Abby called me suddenly, shouting excitedly about something that didn't make sense. What? Whose house?
I don't know. I just ran away from there.
Wait a minute. First of all, I don't even have a car.
Don't lie. It was parked at your house, and I know you've driven that black luxury car before.
Indeed, I had driven such a car before, but there were reasons for that. You're mistaken. That car is... I tried to argue with her, but...
It's your fault for leaving the keys in. So handle the settlement negotiation with the homeowner, okay?
Saying this, she didn't listen to me and just hung up the phone. I thought to myself, wow, she's running away from an accident scene. This is serious. I tried calling Abby back, but couldn't get through. Frustrated, I decided to take further action. I will never forgive this. That evening, Abby stormed into our house.
You settled it, right?
As I said, it's not my car, so I can't do anything about that.
Huh? You mean it really isn't your car?
For the first time, Abby seemed to realize the seriousness of the situation. The luxury car parked on my property actually belonged to a neighboring family of renowned lawyers. Their daughter had come home for a month for childbirth, and because their garage was too small for all their cars, they temporarily used my property for parking. I had previously consulted the neighbor, a lawyer, about Abby. I had become friendly with his daughter and had driven her to her medical checkups in their car. Probably Abby saw this and assumed the car was mine. The lawyer's daughter went into labor, and while the family had started the car engine to leave for the hospital, Abby took the opportunity to steal the car. I'm appalled you'd suggest settling. The car's owner is a lawyer, a professional in this field.
You're lying.
A Upon learning this fact, Abby began to tremble.
There's no proof. It's your word against mine that you drove the car and caused the accident.
Why would I? I'm not kind enough to help someone who has harassed me so much.
Excuse me? What are you talking about?
I showed her the video of her coming to my house and performing various acts of harassment during my absence. After she threatened to send me to hell, I had installed surveillance cameras at the entrance and inside the house. The footage clearly showed Abby stealing my things and entering the house. Of course, it also captured her stealing the car.
When did you...
Abby's face changed color, but that was only for a moment before she defiantly retorted.
I just wanted to teach you a lesson.
Do you hate me that much? Enough to target my life?
Seriously, what nonsense are you saying? Are you out of your mind?
I slammed the vet diagnosis in front of Abby, who scoffed at me through her nose. Bibi saved my life by taking the steak which you cooked for me, risking her own life. When I threatened to report the poisoned meat in the car accident to the police, Abby glared at me, biting her lip and turning red in the face.
Fine, I'll admit I did the car thing. I can pay for the accident damages with my father's inheritance.
Approaching me with a smirk, she provocatively peered into my face.
But I wasn't aiming for your life. Maybe you were the one who poisoned your dog?
I see. Did you do the same thing when your father died? And did you know those who take a life don't get to inherit? At this point, I couldn't definitively say Abby was the one who poisoned my father-in-law, but I gambled and shook her with my accusation. As soon as she heard that, she went white as a ghost and started sweating like crazy, even though it wasn't hot or anything.
Don't mess with me. I'll do this to you.
She picked up a nearby vase and attempted to strike me. That's when someone shouted,
"Stop!"
and emerged from the back, grabbing her arm to prevent her from hitting me.
Joe, why are you here?
I wanted my husband Joe to see Abby's true colors, so I had him wait in the back room to overhear our conversation. Startled by Joe's intervention, Abby desperately tried to justify herself.
It's not what it looks like. Joe, Catherine is framing me. How could I ever think about hurting our precious father?
I can't believe Catherine would lie. Abby, it was you.
No way. This can't be.
I'll submit all the evidence to the police and they'll likely reinvestigate your father's case. It would be best if you told the truth to the police. Abby then turned to Joe, sobbing and pleading.
I did it all for you, Joe. You'd be happier with me. We could get married. Leave her and marry me.
That's ridiculous. I never imagined that you could be so terrifying. To even lay hands on our kind father, I won't forgive you.
Rejected by Joe, Abby then turned to me for help.
I gave up Joe for you. It was my fate to marry him, but you ruined it. Take responsibility and help me.
The shocking truth Joe shared was that Abby was the child of my mother-in-law's friend. After losing her parents to illness at age 7, she was adopted by his parents. There was no blood relation between Joe and Abby. They could have married if they wanted, but Joe only saw Abby as his sister and her love for him wasn't returned.
Please, it was my fault. Don't tell the police.
Why did you end your father's life? Was there a reason? I spoke to her gently, suppressing my anger. Abby confessed that my father-in-law had told her,
Stop harassing Catherine. If you continue, I'll disown you.
I just wanted to make him a little sick. I didn't mean to take his life. I didn't know the poison would be so effective. It's not my fault.
You've confessed. This conversation has been recorded.
How dare you deceive me?
As Abby tried to attack me again, Joe restrained her. Joe was really fuming and showed no remorse. He told Abby they were done. I was boiling with rage, thinking of my father-in-law's unjust death. Abby was investigated for causing my father-in-law's death and attempting on my life. Found guilty, she faced a long sentence. The damages from the luxury car and accident were covered by my mother-in-law, who intended to make Abby repay. Stripping of her inheritance rights, Abby's future held a life burdened with repayments. Meanwhile, I lived with my mother-in-law, supporting each other with Joe. Bibi, now healthy, was with us, and we eagerly awaited the arrival of our new child.